Why hello, and welcome to episode 152 of the Book Binge, where this week we're doing a little bit of story time for the first time in almost a year. We're going to talk a little bit about my journey, transferring into a little bit of audiobook listening, and the Kindle lifestyle when I did not think I would ever end up unironically buying a Kindle. Never thought that it would happen, let alone happen as strongly as it is kind of starting to happen, but it is a shift that is occurring in my reading life, and I kind of want to talk about it a little bit, so this video is probably going to be a little bit shorter. How things started. Let's start there. What you see behind me is several shelves short of my physical book collection. There's a little bit of some of the stuff that I'm most proud of in one sense or another immediately behind me, but there's also several more shelves that aren't immediately on the camera or that are, say, mostly hidden by my chair over here. I've always preferred reading physically. That's how I grew up. And we didn't necessarily have a lot of electronic devices when I grew up. We couldn't really afford them, so to speak. So, and even when we could, we didn't really want them because we were still so used to reading physical books. Having a physical library has just been a core part of my childhood and my life growing up. And on top of all that, I enjoy the tactile feel, the smell, having the shelves with a bunch of nice books on them, the memories, so to speak, of being able to read with a physical book in my hand rather than reading a bunch of books with the same device where I feel like I just kind of forget stuff a little bit more easily for some reason. I've preferred reading physically all of my life, and in fact I'm pretty sure I've done a video in the past that has discussed generally some of my audience's preferences between reading digitally, physically, or doing audiobooks, or some sort of combination of the two, or what they balance between, generally speaking. How my opinion shifted has been a little bit of a longer process, but it's taken place over the last 2 years or so, I would say. I did Another Kingdom, the trilogy by Andrew Clavin, on audio in the summer of 2022, and those worked surprisingly well for me for books 1 and 3. The middle book I don't really remember very much. I'm pretty sure I spaced out for a lot of that book, but the first book really hooked me, and the third book is still one of my most memorable reading experiences, just generally speaking. I really loved the process of listening to that book and that narration. And later that year, after I finished that trilogy, I started The Wandering Inn. I did volume 1 on audio. Also did surprisingly well. I had some problems with certain aspects of it, not all of them entirely related to the narration. Part of them were story-related stuff, but I didn't really have that many problems with the narration. So I was like, okay, so I guess I can do a little bit of audio stuff now and again if I want to, but I'm still going to read physically for the most part. And that's how things went. I do know that I have had historically some issues with audio, but I've kind of started shifting to adding it a little bit more, like I said, but also making an immersive mix with several of the books that I've done immersively or done audio for over the last several months have been immersive, where at least for part of it, if not for most of it, I read the book at the same time that I was listening to it, and that made doing audio a little bit more feasible. It also allowed me to read a couple of books, say, a little bit more quickly or more easily than I otherwise would. Say a book like Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, which is really long, and that I got through a little bit quicker than I would have because of immersive reading. Or, on the other hand, several Cormac McCarthy books where just reading them eyeball only would just absolutely piss me off to no end. Like the very first McCarthy book that I ever read pissed me off to no end because of the writing and the absolute wanton abandonment of just the English language as a written medium really bothers me. So being able to do mostly audio with a little bit of immersive helps me get through something like McCarthy. I did read a couple of ARCs last year as well, and that got me into reading ebooks a little bit more. That kind of shifted on that front, whereas before all the shift was a little bit more in the audiobook side of things. Books that I enjoyed reading digitally. I did them on my phone, so take that as it is. But over the last several months, I have bought several other digital reading projects, and I've done some additional reading projects for other mediums, like copy editing Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3, which I did on a computer. So, that's a little bit of a different thing. I've done a couple of other proofreading projects over the last several months, the last year really as well, so like that changed some things. And then earlier this year, let's say in January, I read the e-arc for Disquiet Gods, the longest book that I've read entirely on my phone by a good margin, and I surprisingly did not have a bad time with that. Over the last couple of months especially, I've bought a good amount, and by a good amount I mean like way too many ebooks cheaply now and again for no real reason. So like obviously things were changing in my mind, like now I'm willing to buy ebooks now, when like before I just didn't really do that and didn't really think about doing that, nor did I really want to. So like clearly my mind was changing a little bit. Then last Christmas for 2023, I bought my mother a Kindle, and I looked into the possibility of getting a Kindle for myself. I settled on an Oasis. Tiny problem, they were, discontinued in the US, so friends decided to cut the difference and buy me one internationally. Thank you to my friends who chipped in for that. They were Patrick, Tokyo, Rumo, and Reen, I believe, were the four that I know of who helped chip in for this. I really appreciate that. So yeah, my mind definitely changed a little bit on digital reading. So what about how it's going right now? Now I have everything set. I've been reading a tiny bit more digitally. I've continued to do several audiobooks immersively. I've been doing one McCarthy book a month, for example, so like that's kept me on. I've been doing another trilogy that's been audio only. And some of the short stories that I've been reading, I've been doing so on my Kindle. Uh, and when I continue to get arcs and a couple of other books, I'll probably transfer between, say, doing digital and physical depending on the book and what it is or whatever is going on. So like I'm going to continue incorporating some more of this stuff as I continue to read and go on, and like who knows, maybe in a few years I'll be fully converted and reading basically everything off a Kindle, even though I don't actually think that will be the case. I just like physical books too much, and there are too many books that I've read that I want to read physically because I have them physically already. I don't feel the need to rebuy many of these books that I already own. I'm just going to read them physically because I have them. So, that's how things are going right now. If you are a primarily digital reader or audiobook listener, whatever have you, let me know in the comments below how you got into the habit of doing either of those things and how big are you into doing them. If you are or were, for example, primarily a physical reader like me, what has kind of changed your mind, or what reservations have you had that have kept you from making a shift? Like I said, I did a video a while ago about how some of my audience and some other Discord acquaintances weigh in on their personal preference, and now I want to know where you stand in on account of this video, like how you came to be where you stand. So if you want to drop those in the comments below, I would appreciate that. But thank you for checking out this video. Next Tuesday, I have a review coming out for The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan, 5th book of the Wheel of Time. I will see you guys there.